All right, everybody. So this is going to be the second half of the axial muscle stuff. We're going to look at the hypaxial muscles this time. So what we're going to do is we're going to review mid-ventral and lateral hypaxial muscles, and we're going to create an equivalency chart. I was hoping that you would all create this chart in lab and kind of understand it, but I just want to make sure that everybody has all the information. On the chart, we're going to do locations, actions, attachments. Sorry, I was pausing like, did I do attachments? I don't know. Let me double check. So the idea of creating an equivalency chart is so that you see how these muscles are all made in the same way during embryonic development, but also to help you understand like they look the same because they're all made in the same way during embryonic development. And then the last part is we'll draw the hypaxial muscles on the basic cross section of the adult. So here I've got a really big chart. So I'm just going to actually close up my video here so that I'll just kind of move myself out of the way if I need to. Oh, maybe I'll put myself over here. We'll see. Sure. So in our hypaxial muscle chart, what we're going to do is we're going to break our hypaxial muscles into regions as you follow me along. We're going to look at the abdominal region first. It's usually the region we start with, and then I'll probably do abdominal, thorax, pause, then we'll do perineum, and then we'll do neck. Okay. So what I have here in my chart is actually what I gave to my lab. So they should kind of have this, but I'm just going to make sure that everybody has that same opportunity to have it too. So we're going to start with the abdomen. So we want to understand there's two sets of muscles that are going to be part of the hypaxial muscles, which remember are going to be in front of the transverse process. And the thing that you're going to really want to pay attention to here is in terms of innervation, which I didn't actually put on here. Damn. I just put nerve right there. Is that we're going to do nerve really simplistically. We're not going to go overboard, okay? So the actions for the abdomen, all these muscles that are going to be either mid-ventral, which means in the midline, or lateral, which means off to the sides of the body, they're all going to have the same action of helping us flex our vertebral column. And then they also help us with compressing the abdomen. Increasing intra-abdominal pressure. So you want to think about what muscle is antagonistic to this. If you flex, what's helping you extend? Okay. Here for the nerve, we're just going to do really simple but correct. Ventral ramus. So our ventral rami. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Mid-ventral muscles means midline muscle. So in the abdomen, there's only one muscle here. This is called rectus abdominis. And like, if you know these muscles, pause the video, fill out your chart, see if you're correct. So rectus abdominis, you want to think about maybe its attachment. It's going to go from the sternum and the ribs all the way down to the pubic symphysis. All right. It is a single layer of muscle that has been all like put together. It was originally 3 layers, but those 3 layers merged all together at the midline. For our lateral hypaxial muscles, that we're going to have a superficial, we'll have a middle, and we'll have a deep layer. Here are superficial muscles called external oblique. The external oblique you can identify not only is it superficial, but you should see that it has fascicles that run downward at an angle. Let me change my arrow right there because that was wonky. Right, so maybe I'll just change how I put this on here. So you should see muscle fascicles running downward at an angle. Downward meaning towards the pubis, so they should be going downwards, okay? The middle layer is called internal oblique. The internal oblique has a set of fascicles that will run upward at an angle that kind of attach to the ilium and then swivel upwards at an angle towards the sternum. The deepest layer is called transversus abdominis. Transversus abdominis, you should see, whoops, it's going to have fascicles that are going to run across the body, or like looks like it goes towards the midline. So running across, transverse, just like that. And I can't do the other one because my weird thing on my power. Oh, there we go. So things you want to think about for the lateral hypaxial muscles of the abdomen is they all have the same insertion point, which is the linea alba, which is a white connective tissue line that is basically down the center portion of the abdomen. Okay. So those are the things you probably want to think about for the abdominal muscles. Abdominal muscles, really not too difficult. I was just going to double check my chart to make sure that I got everything that I had given students originally. Okay. Then we're going to look at thorax. So now we want to think about what is our action of these muscles in the thorax. For now, we're just going to simplistically write breathing. And when you get into later classes where you learn how breathing works, then will learn how these muscles work specifically, okay? Here, you have specific nerves. They're called the intercostal nerves, but basically that's a branch of the ventral rami. That's what you want to know. Now, it's kind of weird because you can actually go through basically everything mid-ventral at this point and say, well, is there anything here in the chest that is mid-ventral? No, there's not. So what I'm going to do is kind of put a line through right here and just kind of say NA. Okay, this is the actual appropriate usage of NA, which is not applicable. Don't write NA on your test, all right? Questions are applicable. You just don't know the answer. Don't write NA. So we have no muscles here in our thorax, right? Then we go to our lateral muscles. So we'll have a superficial, we'll have a middle, and we'll have a deep layer. I'm kind of tempted to make you guys fill out this yourselves because you should be able to, but maybe pause the video right now and see if you can fill out what are those three muscles and what is their fascicle arrangement. Hopefully you paused and you wrote external intercostal. And when you wrote external intercostals, hopefully you put, oh, they have fascicles that are running downward at an angle. The other thing you want to know about external intercostals that's going to help you a lot in lab probably is that you don't see them in the front of the body near the sternum. They actually are found more posterior near the back. So you kind of just put near the back / dorsal, if that's what you want to put. The next layer is internal intercostal. So internal intercostals are going to run upward at an angle, just like that, because these are equivalent muscles. Internal oblique and internal intercostal are equivalents. So since they're derived in the same way, their fascicle pattern is exactly the same. One of the differences here is that you can find internal intercostals near the sternum a lot more. So here you want to think about near sternum. All right. And then the last layer is the deepest layer. You guessed it, it's transversus thoracis or thoracis. And again, these should run transverse. So here, the transversus thoracis attachments are the sternum and the ribs. They don't quite go, that this is not a full layer. So basically, what you should see, one difference between the abdomen and the thorax is the abdominal layers of lateral hypaxial muscles completely cover each other. Whereas in the thorax, there's open spaces where those muscles don't completely overlap one another. And that's true for transversus thoracis, which will only be on the inside. And sometimes it looks like it has its muscles flaring upward because it's going to the ribs. So hopefully that's pretty simple and straightforward. Maybe we have a little bit more time, like I don't know, I'm not checking my timing on my videos, but we could just go through the perineum and the neck really quick, hopefully, and it won't be too long. So the perineum, the actions here, we're going to be really simple again, is support pelvic organs. So basically, these layers of muscles are meant to help us close off the opening between our two coxal bones, our two coxa, to make sure that our organs don't actually evacuate or like fall out of our body, essentially. Okay. So here, the nerves again should just, the nerves are actually specific. So we're just gonna write again NA right here. Don't worry so much about what is the specific nerve for each of these muscles. We'll maybe go over that in another class in 2240 instead. Again, we're going to write NA right here for our mid-ventral muscles. There's no mid-ventral muscles that are going in this like pelvic area. So we're just looking at the lateral hypaxial muscle equivalents, basically. So hopefully it's not too bad. So the superficial layer is called the urogenital diaphragm. Sorry, I was just looking at my chart that I did in office hours. A lot of times I make these charts in office hours, you guys. So we have urogenital diaphragm. The urogenital diaphragm is going to be 3 muscles. So we have deep transverse perineal. Ooh, that's a really small, ooh, I doubt you guys can read that, sorry. Deep transverse perineal. And then I'm just going to try to write a little bit bigger, sorry. External anal sphincter. And internal, I'm sorry, external urethral sphincter. Basically. So what are its fascicle pattern like? It's probably kind of similar, but don't worry so much about fascicle pattern here. You just want to know what is the equivalent muscle. This is the superficial layer. It has 3 things. It doesn't quite cover everything in the perineal region, which is the diamond-shaped area that goes from the urethra to the anus. So we need another layer. That's the middle layer. The middle layer is called the pelvic diaphragm. Right. So the pelvic diaphragm is going to include levator ani and the coccygeus muscle. I always have a hard time with the spelling of coccygeus. It's so weird. And then the deepest layer is your muscle actually gets transformed into a connective tissue sheet. So now our transversus abdominis isn't actually a muscle. Instead, it's just connective tissue called the transversalis fascia. Basically. So you should be able to kind of see, again, the pattern, right? External oblique, internal intercostals, urogenital diaphragm. Internal oblique, internal intercostal, pelvic diaphragm. Transversus abdominis, transversus thoracis, transversalis fascia. All right. So I'm going to take a pause right here and I'll do the neck and the cross section on part 2 of the video.